Alright, so when we left off we finished kind of working on this area a bit, and we still have to do some work on that, adding in the bolt lever and stuff with that, but anyway, go ahead and load up your scene if you're following along, or if you're not, just sit back and watch. I didn't delete my history before we got off last time, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to go to delete all by type in history. I should delete the history off of all of our objects here. I think we'll probably come in and try and shape this some more, because it's pretty much the bulk of the weapon is this area, and if we can get that going, it'll start looking nicer overall. So the main things that we're going to want to focus on are probably just kind of smoothing out this a lot, just adding a lot more dimension. We're going to smooth out the edges. Right in here, I probably want to add in a little bit of a sort of a ramp. You can see in our reference that there's this area kind of slopes in there. Not worried about all these little rivets and things. If we add those in at all, it'll be toward the end. But that's something that you probably would just do textures for. But you know, sometimes I add in like little screws and stuff. We'll do we'll do all this because that's kind of a deep indent there, and I don't know. We'll just kind of see where this takes us, but we'll try and get this squared away, especially. So let's go ahead and just have a look at it and see what we can come up with. Alright, so looking at our image here, you can see this cut is pretty sharp along this edge, and it comes down right here in this sort of squared off area. So that's like right here. So we'll probably go ahead and come in and just sort of, you know, I can't necessarily see the curve exactly in there, but I know I know that it's over here in this general area, so I'm just going to kind of, just going to kind of make that shape where I think it needs to be, and we can come back and adjust it some more later. I'm also going to insert an edge loop here, because this grip area is going to be a little bit fatter, and you know, as you start working on a model more and start refining it more, you'll start to pay more attention to the edge flow, the way that your topology is, and you can see it taking shape right here. If we look at it, you can see if you follow this edge, it comes up, and technically it goes all the way up here, this edge loop. If we click it, you see it goes all the way up, but we're making this circle shape, and you can see it's going up here, and then it's coming across and coming down, and that's going to be kind of like the hard edge. And if we start to put in within that more geometry, and I definitely need more down here, I think, too. You want to be careful, though. I mean, like, I just added in a lot of geometry, and maybe a little bit sooner than I would recommend, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it turns out, because I think we can utilize it. And you know, you see I'm not making huge changes here. What I'm doing is I'm just sort of adjusting these to make the curves a little bit smoother. You know, I want an organic curvature. I want a nice smooth shape. And so we're just kind of like aligning these to give us a little bit better edge flow, better shape overall. You want to be careful when you start adding geometry to make sure that you're not getting any issues down the line. You know, like I added in some stuff here, but I think it's all fine for now. So right in here is, if you hold shift and you if you hold shift and double click, you can kind of come in here and attach some, select some of that stuff a little bit faster. So let's just kind of bring this in and see how it looks. Okay, so that's bringing it in, and I'm also going to grab sort of these edges that are making up the loops, because that's what we need to bring in to smooth out this area. Kind of taper it down. I'm selecting it just one at a time by hand. And I'm also going to do the other side. Now, you could work on half the model. If it's a symmetrical thing, you can work on just like half of it, and then you can mirror it over when you're done, which sometimes can be a lot more efficient, but in this particular case, I'm just going to do it by hand. I'm not in a huge rush or anything, and I think it's fine. But just be careful to make sure you get everything the same on both sides. So I'm kind of looking at it and just, let's look at our reference a little bit. It's pretty smooth in there. It looks pretty good. When we smooth it, you can see it's looking pretty decent. But the thing that we don't have is this creased edge. If you look here, you see this kind of crease in there, and we're not getting any of that. And even though we're getting this soft organic feel, we're not getting the hard, solid feel of that creased edge. So what we need to do is, what am I doing? Alright, here we go. What we need to do is we need to add in that crease. And the easiest way to do that is just to put an edge right along this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and put one along here, pretty close. Maybe I'll do one on the inside too. That'll make it really stand out more. And I'm going to do one on here. But what I don't want is I don't want it to crease further in, so I'll have to be careful to watch that and make sure that it doesn't create issues. And again, this is not necessarily, I'm not going to put that one there actually because there's no crease there. It's not necessarily the best technique if you're trying to do something low poly, because we're adding in a lot of geometry when we do this. And you could just harden the edge using the normals. You could select that edge along there, just kind of going through the loop, and you could go to normals and you could hit harden edge, and that would give you a harder edge too, and maybe give us the look we're looking for. But I like to do it this way. I think it looks better and cleaner in the end. Let me just look at this a little bit more. Maybe went a little too thin and down in here, or even through here. I might add another loop in here, but I haven't decided on that yet. So we'll just kind of leave it for now. We'll come back to it if I decide. But you can see we're getting. Sometimes you get these weird edges. I just have to. There we go. You can see we're getting that crease now in there, but it looks like it might be coming actually a little bit too far down. I don't know. Let's look. Well, it actually does have sort of the crease in through there as well. So I think we'll leave that for now. But I'm going to suck in maybe this edge a little bit. Maybe I'll just do it from here because this area is going to be a little skinnier, and I know that I want these to be thinner. Just from looking at the reference, I know that these are thinner than the rest of the gun model. And so, you know, when you smooth that out, it's automatically looking better. An effect of smoothing in this way is that it is thinning out the model. So it's actually not really wide enough right now. But we will be fixing that by adding some edge loops in the center section along here. But I just want to make sure that I've got things kind of going good first. And right now I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of looking and deciding what needs to be done. And I know that we need to create this sort of shape down here that kind of goes up and in there. And there's different ways of doing that. I'm going to try extruding and sort of bringing this in, but we'll have to do some. Then again, maybe I won't do that. I'm going to hold off on that. Let's insert an edge loop here. And I'm going to bring these faces in just a little bit because I want to create this little edge here. And let's put in an edge loop here on the grip and sort of suck this in a little bit maybe. See how it looks. Okay. So we're doing alright. I think that in order to get this shape here, I might do a split polygon. Which basically I'm just going to cut the face along here to this C and maybe bring it down that way. You'll see what I'm talking about. Basically, if you don't have the split polygon tool, in newer versions it's kind of like hidden, so you can't see it. But if you come down here to your little Mel script area, you can type it in, or you could type it in by clicking this button here and opening the script editor. Let's go ahead and just go over to the mail. And I'm not going to need any of that. If you type in with capitals are important here, so capital S and split, no spaces, capital P, polygon, and then capital T, tool, and you'll see it highlight like that. And you just put like a little semicolon on there, and you hit enter on the number pad. It's important that you do that, enter. It will bring up this tool. It's the split polygon tool. I've actually created a little button for it up here, which you can do by when you put it in here, so you can go to File and you can save script to shelf. Then you can type in the name. I just put in SPT, that's split poly tool, and you'll hit OK, and it'll add a button to your shelf up here. And this is my button here. And what it allows you to do is come in and you can drag along an edge so you get to like a vertex, and then drag to another, and then let go. And if I hit enter, now it's put a cut in there. And I've created a triangle here, so that's something generally you try and avoid when doing your modeling, but in this particular case I think it's what we need. And I'm going to do it again and cut from this vertex to this down here, and so now it's still pretty much going to be the same. I haven't really made any significant changes to the topology yet. I'm just cutting in this triangle shape because I know that I'm going to need it at some point in order to get this sort of part back here that I'm looking for. And it may be that I need to extrude these out. And I'm kind of experimenting here, you know, don't think that this is something that I've kind of already planned out and I know is going to work 100%. You know, sometimes you just have to experiment and see where a road will take you, and it doesn't always work out. I mean, I might have to change this later on, but I want to see if I can make it work. So let's just kind of bring this bit out. And yeah, this is looking pretty much not how I want it to, so I know what I need to do. I'm going to actually back this up a bit. I'll probably end up cutting this particular part out of the final video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge here and I'm going to extrude it in a little bit, and I'm going to bring I'm going to cut this face out and this face out, as well as on the other side. kind of just doing things twice here. And I'm going to get to my edit mesh, merge vertex tool, and just snap these inner ones to the outside here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge, mesh, fill hole. Oh, oopsies. Yeah, that's not what I want. Okay. So now I have this little bit here, and this little bit here, kind of overlapping edges there, and I need to fix that. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'll take this edge and extrude it out. Okay, so I've got this, and I can merge these vertices together and merge them down here. And so that fills that hole in a relatively good way. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. So I'm just extruding this edge out, and I'm just kind of scaling it in so I can see those vertices easier. And merging the vertex, merge vertex tool, putting these together, and that gives me a triangle. And again, you know, quads are ideal, but occasionally a triangle is not going to kill you, and it is sometimes just what you need to get the job done. So I think that in this particular instance, to get this sort of awkward crease here, it's just what I need. And so, you know, this isn't necessarily the most efficient way of doing this, but you know, it's a way of doing it, and there's always different ways to solve your problems. So just kind of experiment, and you'll learn what works and what doesn't. So that's kind of filled that out, and so that's looking really hideous right there. Clearly something is not connected properly, or let's look inside. Okay, so here we see that something went wrong. I merged to the incorrect face, apparently, or incorrect vertex. Anyway, we'll merge these together, put that up there. Okay, now it looks better. And so merging the vertices. There we go. Okay, so that's sort of what I'm looking for. We're just going to try and fix this a little bit more, just to make it a little more appealing. Oops. So let's kind of bring this down. Let's get these vertices here sort of aligned. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a pull in there that I'm not keen on. I'm going to take this edge out because I don't need it, and this here, which will take us back to a quad shape on that particular piece, which is good. We want quads wherever we can get them. And if I actually take this out, I don't know about this whole little section here. I'm not. I'm going to use my split polygon tool again. And I'm snapping, trying to get those sides pretty similar. Bring this edge in a little bit. I'm just trying to get this kind of creased shape. And so I'm actually taking this edge all the way around to the other side here. Okay. So now I've somewhat successfully cut in that sort of edge there. Yeah, you can see though that was kind of a really trial and error situation, and you know the smoothing and stuff is not perfect in there yet, but we will continue to clean that up as we go along. But we've kind of cut this edge in there finally, so we will keep on, and it'll look good when we get done. That's the nice thing, you can always keep going back and keep changing stuff. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take these parts here. Actually, we'll just select all of them. And I'm going to add them to a layer. I'm just going to call it barrel. And I'm going to turn that visibility off by just unchecking that, because I just want to look at this right now. And to make sure that the sides are both exactly the same, I'm going to insert an edge loop right here in the center of this. Oops. And I'm going to snap it to that X there. I'm going to hold X and I'm going to snap it to this this main 0 grid line, just to make sure that it's as centered as possible. I'm going to select all. Oh, I'm also going to do one. Let's scratch that. Let's not do that because then we'd have to cut there, there, and there. Instead, what we'll do is we'll do a cut faces tool. I'm going to go to my top view. I'm going to hold shift and drag and cut straight down the center of this thing. And we're going to select all those middle vertices, vertices, whatever. And again, just kind of snap those to the X line to make sure they're in order. Okay. So now we have this, and I'm going to take half of these faces and I'm just going to delete them like this. So now we have half a gun. The other side's just not there. And when I take this, I can go to Mesh, Mirror Geometry, and we go to Options. And looking at this, I need to mirror it in the positive Z, I believe. I'm going to check Merge Vertices and Mirror. Oh, okay. So I mirrored it the wrong direction. So I'm just going to Z that. We'll just check that to negative Z. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, negative Z, mirror, okay. And then I want to change this merge threshold to 001, just to make sure we don't merge anything on accident that we don't want to. And then I'm going to press 3 and I can see that it's all merged correctly. And we're starting to get a pretty good shape. Put an edge loop in here, maybe up this way, yeah, and put one on the end here. Okay, maybe one here. And as you can see, we're starting to get a shape that is smooth, but also has, you know, the edges that we need defined. I would like to cut in some edge loops along these corners, and you know, you can be exact with it. You can do this before you do your mirror, or you can just kind of eyeball it like this. It's probably a little off. Bring it in a little bit more. Yeah, that's too much. Okay, so, you know, whatever, just get it to where you're happy with it. And so that's going to give us like crisper edges. And it may not even be crisp enough up to a certain point here. Let's take these faces okay. I've selected those faces and I'm inserting an edge loop. Oh. No, I'm not. I guess I would have to cut those. Oops. Okay, and I just deleted extra extra vertices that were throughout the model that I didn't want. So what I've done is I've added an edge loop and I deleted off this other section back here that I don't want. So the edge loop is only starting about here and wraps around to the other side over here. And you can see that leaves us with sort of an odd area over here, which when I look at it smooth, it does not seem to be a major issue. But if you wanted to, you could use your split polygon tool and just sort of come around and complete that loop, which might be beneficial down the line. So, that kind of gives us a little bit of a weird spot there. But I'm just adding in edge loops just all over the place, kind of creating creases that I want. And the shape's a little weird right here, which I think is probably because of this edge. So I'm just kind of experimenting again to see if I can get a shape that I am happy with. It doesn't have to be exactly what the model is. It doesn't have to be what the reference is. I just want a shape that I'm happy with, and that's pretty satisfactory. I'm okay with that right now. So we're getting the overall shape refined more and more. I can see what it looks like with that stuff on there if I want to. I definitely want a harder edge up along here, and so I'm gonna just adding in an edge loop, and this one goes all the way around and it really sharpens up that top part there. We can see the sharpness of it now. And if I take in here these two, you notice I'm not looking at my reference that much anymore. I'm just kind of looking at the model and I'm getting how I am happy with it. But if you want to be more exact, you can come in here and look at it. So the little slope that I talked about earlier, I want to put that in. And I'm just going to kind of scale these towards each other to get that. I might need to make that even a little bit sharper, but I don't know that I'm really ready to do that yet. Let's see how we're looking. This top edge is a little bit sharper maybe than I would want. Oops. I'm going to just kind of select these edges here. You can do the faces if you want to. I'm just pulling them up a little bit just to give it a little bit more shape. And again, this is just kind of my preference. It's not necessarily what the model is. I'm just kind of looking at things that I want to see a little bit different. I'm going to bring this down, just kind of add a little curve in there. And the major thing that I'm seeing right here is the trigger area is not even close to what it should be. You want to make sure when you're making big changes, you want to make big changes in an unsmoothed view. I keep hitting 3 to smooth the thing out and see how it's looking, but it's okay to make some minor changes in the smooth view, but the closer your unsmooth view is to your overall goal, the better your smooth view is going to be. And I know that maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you just kind of have to trust me on that one. So I'm just kind of like adding in some shape here, pulling things out, adding in a little bit of like curvature to the grip, and you know, I can bring down stuff like, I'm going to bring this down a little bit maybe, make it a little bit more curved, just, you know, making it a little bit nicer. I think these are probably a little too far out. I'm gonna bring those in a little bit. And I haven't saved in a while. You should probably save more often than I'm saving, in case it crashes on you or something. So I'm gonna save the scene, and then I'm gonna delete all my history. Sometimes it'll crash when you delete history. I might have that happen very much recently, but I like to save before I delete my history, and then I save again after. And I'm actually going to also go ahead and just save off another scene. Scene 04, save as, and so I'm going to make some changes in here just to bring this shape a little closer to what I want. See, that's looking a lot nicer. It's still not really super precise, but it's okay. You know, it's believable. That's what you want, is believability. And so that's kind of cool. I'm liking the shape. I'm liking the organic feel with the still relatively crisp areas. And I think we're getting something that we can start being happy with. So we'll leave it with this for now, and we'll come back to it, make some more changes. I want to add in these pieces back here, start adding in some more details, maybe do the trigger, maybe work on this, refining this shape a little bit more, because there's like certain spots that I just still don't have quite the crispness I want, like putting in here these bits to make them nice and sharp. I mean, even just that little bit I just did right there is giving me the shape I want a little bit more. You know, we want to take out a little bit of that curvature. It's just a little too much at times, but we'll get in there and do some more of that. I'm just gonna save off, and we'll come back to it. So, see you next time. So today, I think we'll try and maybe finish up some more of the stock and add on some little elements back here. Maybe we'll do the scope. I don't know. We'll just kind of play it by ear. Let's see where we go. And I definitely want to put this little bit in. So I think I'll go ahead and work on that first. So I'm just going to start, as usual, just cutting in some little edge loops. And you can see that I'm not matching it up perfectly. But I'm not real concerned with that. Again, the reference image is not perfectly straight, perfectly level. So some of that is not going to match up no matter what I want to do. But it's not something I'm concerned with, as long as we can still end up with a good result. It's all going to be okay. So I'm just going to shape this out a little bit. And if I bring up my reference image, just have a little look. So there's a little bit of a curve in here. And I'm kind of just making that happen around this edge here. And I could probably pull these out a little bit. So it's not a perfect match, but it's okay. So what I'm going to do is just kind of select those faces and extrude them in. And then I'm probably only going to go about this deep. And then I'm going to cut some edge loops in here. Oops, I didn't want that one. There we go. Definitely need something here. Alright, so we're getting that shape. It's not quite refined enough yet, but we're getting the general cutout. I think that we need to go ahead and add some more edge loops in here to shape that a little bit better. And I'm only working on one side right now because putting this kind of an indentation into the surface is really just kind of a pain in the butt to try and do that on both sides at the same time. So I'm going to just do it on this one side, and I'm going to end up cutting off the other side and just mirroring so that it matches. But I like to have the other side on there anyway, just so I can kind of still see how things are looking. So that's looking better. I can probably still sharpen up this line of the square a little bit. And so let's go into our side view for a minute. That's pretty good. It's a Look at our reference. Okay, so it's pretty good. This end part here can probably go in a little bit, based on just kind of looking at the reference and seeing that it's a little bit deeper in this area. So I'm just going to kind of push that in a little bit, and I'm doing it in smooth view because we're getting towards where the stock is pretty close to being done. We'll add in details and stuff, possibly with the little screw bits, and you can always continue to shape things and sort of like refine edges if you're not happy with them. Like, I think this edge kind of sticks out a little bit. I'm not really super keen on that, so I'm just going to kind of have a look and see if I can, especially like back here, it kind of pokes out a little bit more than I'd like. And I think that also, if you see how when I'm switching from the unsmooth view to the smooth view, see how much change there is in that. You know, the lines are really, the edges are just jumping around, and so that's kind of telling me that I may need to add in some more edge loops, some more geometry, just to keep it from jumping around so much. So I'm going to put one there, and maybe one there. Let's have a look and see. No, I don't like that. That's too much. I think actually what I'm going to end up doing is just going ahead and kind of cutting a new little loop through there. I'm going to take out this edge here, just delete that, and I'm going to use my split poly tool again. We talked about how to bring that up earlier. I'm just going to bring this down here, and that way I can kind of do another loop around, and also bring this vertex over and make a little bit of room in here. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up from here maybe, because I like the loop on the bottom edge. The bottom edge is looking fine to me, but I want a little bit more definition on this top edge here. So I'm just kind of cutting in some faces, and you'll notice I'm making a few triangles. You know, there's ways to make it so that you don't have any triangles, but I'm not overly concerned with that. If they turn out to be a problem, we'll do something about it. But I'm just going to take out this little edge here. Okay, so you can see it didn't change anything on this side, and it's not a huge difference, but it's just a little bit crisper along that edge. I'm noticing that here I'm getting sort of a little bit of a crease, a little bit of a seam there that I don't want. And the way to fix that is just to come in with where these edges are really close together and just kind of straighten things out and bring them apart a little bit. So I'm just looking from different angles at the sort of curvature of the edge and trying to make that look good. The smoother you make those transitions, those edges in your non-smooth view, the smoother it's going to look. So this crease is pretty much gone. I could still adjust it some more. There's kind of a crease in here as well. And you can see how it's not really curving quite right. Like if you look at this edge, it's really straight almost completely from here to here, and so I'm not making good use of this edge. So I just want to kind of reshape that a little bit to make more of a curve, and then it'll make this so much smoother. If you look over here on this side, which I haven't changed, you can see a little bit of a kind of an indent here, a little bit of a crease, but on the other side it's, there's still some little spots, but it's a lot smoother through here. And I'll probably kind of pull this out a little bit too. And I don't want these going like up in there so far. So I'm just going to pull those down just to make that transition a little smoother. And I think that this sort of loop here can also come out a little bit. And pull it out this way. I'm also just going to scale it out slightly. So I just think that's a little bit nicer. We're starting to get kind of a lot of geometry here. You could come in and clean some of this up. You don't need necessarily all of this, but just make sure you don't get too much geometry too quickly. We're kind of adding it in where we need it, but you just want to take your time and come in and adjust things before you get too much. I probably could have adjusted some of this more early on, but that's okay. just want to come in here and pull some of these just down a little bit, just to give it a little bit more curve and shape. See that area that we had some trouble with earlier on. You want to make sure this doesn't happen. See how it's going over that edge in our regular view? You really don't want that to happen, so just kind of align it better in an unsmooth view. And that'll give us a better smooth view as well. It'll be cleaner, a little bit nicer. I think that if I bring some of these vertices this way a little bit, give me that shape I want a little bit easier, a little bit more. So it's looking pretty good. I want to maybe clean up right here. It's looking a little dull. So I'm just going to cut some more edges in, because that's easy enough to do. And so, you know, see what this is what I'm trying to do here. See how this is really curved, really smooth. By adding in more geometry here, it sharpens that edge. So I'm just sharpening that up. I'm going to sharpen this up a little bit here. And I'm going to take this edge and kind of round this back part out a little bit, because it is rounder on our actual reference. So that's pretty good. Just this area down here is kind of bothering me. I don't know that I like how this is. I think that these points here are creating kind of a sharp edge, you can see. So I'm going to bring them down this direction and push them in a little bit. And just make sure you look at it from different angles. So bring that out and push these in. And I'm kind of just manually softening this edge here, trying to make it not so sharp. See here, there's like a stray vertex that I don't want. So I'm just going to hit the delete key and delete that. Must have cut that in at some point on accident. It's a little cleaner. There's still sort of some sharpness in here from where these edges are coming all the way down. And I don't really want that. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those edges. And I'm selecting the vertices and then pressing delete, and it's only going to delete the ones that I don't need, so I'm not worried about selecting accurately just those specific ones. And so that helps to get rid of some of those creases and stuff in there. And I think that in through here we could do a little something as well. Just kind of fix up this edge flow a little bit. It's a little too jagged. It's not really the best edge flow ever. And this is where putting in all those edge loops can actually kind of be a problem. You want to kind of get your stuff shaped pretty good before you start cutting in a bunch of edge loops, because otherwise you'll end up having to just like adjust too much stuff. But I'm not going to do too much with that. I'm just moving them around a little bit to clean some of it up. Oops. So I'm just kind of bringing these apart in order to take that crease out. Come over here and sort of shape that back. So it's a little convoluted in here. It's not quite optimal geometry, but oops. Yeah, that's not looking super good. I'm going to go ahead and take out that side that I don't want, that I didn't do all the work on, and going to mirror it. Oops. And I'm going to change the merge threshold to 001. Just so that both sides are matching. So we've got that on both sides. Just kind of snapping these to align them a little bit better. Just cleaning stuff up a little bit so it's not so discombobulated, jumbled up. That's not too bad. I'm not a huge fan of this crease over in here. Right in here. So let's see if we can't spread some of that out a little bit. So again, I'm just trying to kind of soften some of these curves. They're just hard edges, hard curves. And the softer I make them in here, the softer my smooth result is going to be. And also by kind of separating these a little bit and not getting such a hard crease in the final result. So there's still sort of a little bit of an indent there, and I think that part of that is coming from this piece here, how it's not connected all the way around. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to actually go ahead and connect that all the way around. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and I'm going to use my split polygon tool and I'm just going to make some cuts around here. And I'm going to match it up to the other side here. And so now I've looped that around and it's got somewhere to kind of hang on to. So it's not going to indent quite as much. And I can come in here and soften that up, that sort of curve. See how they're kind of going out, coming back in, coming back out. And that's not what we want. much sort of lumpiness in there. And I think that it's right here. You can kind of see, yeah, see how it's. So I'm just gonna grab these ones that are sticking out and poking in. I'm just snapping them to where the others are so that we're not seeing all of that lumpiness sort of developing in there. Be fine. Let's see. Okay, yeah, see, we've got some sort of sticking in here. Maybe that whole edge is kind of in too far. It's getting smoother in here. I probably need to clean up back here some more. And I mean, you can sit around and do this all day long, but just kind of try and get things to where you're happy with them. You know, it's not going to be perfect all the time, but if you get things to where you're happy with them, and you can get a good render, then you know, that's pretty much the name of the game. You can see here there's a triangle, and it's kind of creating a weird weirdness there. And you know, this is an easy one to fix. I'll just use my split polygon tool, and I'm gonna cut around again, because I know on the other side there's, you know, going to be a matching triangle as well. So I'm just finishing that loop, and then I'm taking out this edge, and now instead of, you know, a triangle, I've got a quad, and it'll smooth out a little bit nicer. There's a kind of a pull here. We've got, you know, too many edges coming in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into this one spot, but it's not really an issue because that's just sort of the nature of that area. So just kind of smoothing that out a little bit. And I think that oops. Pull that out a little bit. I'm also going to do these ones. So it's still, you know, it's not perfect. But you can just kind of keep adjusting it until you get it, until you're satisfied with it, you know. There's another triangle here, and it's kind of creating a weird shape. So I'm just going to use my split poly tool again and come around. Just take out that extra edge. Now, instead of a triangle, though, I have created here a five-sided face. But, and I need to take out. Okay, well, that's fine. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to leave that because it's less of an issue than the triangle in that particular area. You know, and you can see there's like a little bit of bumpiness in there, but you know, we're trying to make an organic sort of feel and also still keep things hard, and you know, that can be difficult, but these aren't really things that you're going to notice a whole lot especially when it's textured. Once you've textured it, that's really going to cover all of that up, you know, so just minimize the problems where you can, and don't stress too much over it being perfect, because it's still going to look good, you know, when you're rendering it out and you've got textures on there and all the detail added in. People probably aren't going to be scrutinizing your little bits of imperfection in every little nook and cranny. So I'm going to just go ahead and one more time, I want to make sure that both sides are matching, because I wasn't working on both sides the whole time. So, and you could set this up to, you know, so that you're working on both sides, have it mirrored or instanced or whatever, but I just don't really feel like setting that up. Okay, and change that merge. Okay, and just make sure there's no holes or weird looking spots along the seam there, and which doesn't appear that there are. It looks fine, so I'm gonna probably call that finished for now. And I'm gonna delete my history, because I haven't done that in a while. You should do it more often than what I'm doing. But I'm deleting all my history, and I'm gonna save my scene. And I'm also gonna save it as a new scene, just so I have backups. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start working on some new pieces now. I'm gonna work on this little butt back here, because that'll be really easy to put in. We're just gonna do one of these. Pull that out. And again, you know, it's called reference. It's not, you don't have to be spot on with this. You know, just use it as reference. Use it for figuring out what you need to do and getting the dimensions and stuff, but don't feel like you have to kind of trace the image. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, obviously, if you're modeling something that you want to be perfect and super realistic, then you're going to need to pay attention to the detail more. But in this case, we're not going for, or I'm not going for perfection. So we're just going to kind of shape this out. I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. I know that I want sort of a curvature in there, and I want it to encompass the width of this. I want it to be wide enough. I'm gonna insert an edge loop here. But I need to make sure it's in the center. I want it right there. Okay. That just lets me do this. And I can pull that up. I can pull these down. And I'm also just going to pull these two out a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a curve there. Push this up. And we can look at our reference if we want to be a little bit better with it. You can see there's kind of some creases in there, and there's some rounded overlap. I'm going to again insert a couple of edge loops. I'll put one there, and I'm going to put the stock into its own layer real quick. Just so I can hide it real easily, and I can come in here and do stuff with these. I'm just extruding and then scaling it in a little bit. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to scale it in like more. Oops, I grabbed the edge that I didn't want to earlier. So just gotta go back. So I have to be careful of that sometimes. So here's that. Just to make that a little bit sharper there. I'm actually not going to do it again. It's fine. And so I'm going to I'll bring this down a little bit. Maybe not that much. I'm going to scale the thing out just slightly. Oh, would you believe it? I did it again. No, this is silliness. I have to go back. I can't believe I did that. Alright, so I'm just going to grab these faces and check, see, and grab some again. There we go. Okay, so I don't have them now. Extruding. Second again. Okay, there's that. So I know I want to bring this down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to scale the whole thing out a little bit. Just slightly. And then in here, there's sort of a part that goes out some, so I'm just going to kind of extrude this out a little bit. And then insert an edge loop to give me that kind of a wedge there. And I'm noticing that the top part here is too high. So I'm just going to shrink that down and bring it down. Okay, I think that's probably what I want. So a piece like that is pretty easy to make. Wait. If you want to make the end a little bit sharper, like in the reference, you can. But I think that's fine. I like how that is looking. I did notice that I forgot to put in a little square here on the stock. So I'm just going to put an indentation in here for that little piece. It looks like it's probably for like a shoulder strap or something. So I'm just going to extrude that in. Okay. And And just like that, we have that little indentation. There's actually another little one in there. If you look here, it goes down again, and then that little piece sticks out. So I think while I'm at it, I might as well just go ahead and add that in as well. So do something maybe about here. Bring this down a little bit. Bring this in. That. And extrude. I'm going to do it once, just like on the edge there. And I'm going to do it again and push it a little deeper. That way I get a little bit of a lip already on there. And then just the same thing, just putting in a couple edge loops. And put one down here as well. Okay, and so now we have that part. And we can create that little ringlet later on. So that will probably only be on that side because it's, if it's for a shoulder strap. And I have a ring, we'll put a ring in here for the front part of that. I didn't look on the other side. I didn't look up reference to see if the other side looks like this, but I think it probably does, and I'm going to leave it like that because I like it like that, regardless of whether or not that's accurate. And then we've got this little kind of a cheek rest or whatever on here. So I'm going to put that on there as well. And you could use maybe like a cylinder and sort of cut it in half, or like just like a pill shape. But we'll just use a square for now. And we'll take this bottom face off, which will ensure that when it's smooth, that edge will still be sharp. And we'll bring that down. And I'm just going to put an edge loop in here, and also one through the center. And I want to align the object, so I'm just going to put it on that line and shrink it down because it's a little too big. Let's have a look. Okay, so about here, grab this edge, kind of pull it out a little bit. And you could make this more detailed if you felt like it. I don't think it's going to require a lot of extra detail to get it how I want, though. I mean, essentially that's the shape I want right there. So it's kind of already looking good. I want it to kind of get up against there a little bit. Maybe in the back I'll flatten this out some. Oops. Just to kind of have it meet up a little bit better. So I like that. We're not being spot on, but we're just making it look believable and making it look how we want it to look, and I think that's plenty good. I mean, there's no sense in adding a bunch of geometry you don't need. This right here is fine. You could adjust it more if you wanted to. If you wanted to maybe round this out more by hand. But it's not super necessary. I mean, it looks fine. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and save because I've added on these new parts. So save the scene. I'm going to delete all my history. Save again. And I think I'll save this as a new copy. And I think that will be it for just right now. I'm going to take a little break and then I'll come back and we'll do some more. Maybe like the trigger, the bolt handle here. And maybe we'll do the scope too, because that's pretty quick work. So alright, I'll see you shortly.